Welcome back to What Drives You. And I have a very special guest today, Mr. Chris Bauman. Hey, Chris.
Carl, thank you for having me. I feel like it's been almost years that you've told me about your passions with podcasting, and it's really an honor to be here and really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I think it's really neat.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining. It has been a few years and it's morphed kind of from, as you said, the podcasting to the YouTubing, which is a little bit more, less editing. So, and you as a music professional understand how much time it takes to edit. So yeah, I'm just so glad you could join and fit us into your schedule. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being flexible.
Oh, no
That's
worries.
good.
So for anyone who doesn't know, who's been kind of out and about, if you are a music fan, this is a story you're going to want to hear. And my first awareness of Chris, ironically, he may not even know this story, was I my wife gets this monthly magazine in our mailbox, and there's this young family, beautiful family, talking about moving from Nashville to Barrington, where we live, and he's opening this piano bar, and I'm like, wow, Barrington's moving up in the world. This young guy's moving from there to here. My daughter was going to school in Nashville at Belmont, as Chris knows, and there they are on the front page of this magazine. So maybe tell us about how that came about and a little bit about, and then I'll back up into Glenview in a minute. But yeah, tell us about that magazine cover.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. So really kind of neat. I grew up in the Chicago area in Glenview, and uh, growing up in Glenview, we would always play Barrington at various sports. We were in the city for many years when my son was born, and then after the city, you know, the idea was we wanted to be in Chicagoland and ultimately, eventually raise our family in the Chicago area. And so, as we were looking at different communities, we had attended church out in Barrington, South Barrington, at a place called Willow Creek since I was a teenager. Um, Started driving around the area, and always knew that it was good sports teams, a very good family atmosphere, kind of your all American community is what we wanted, and ultimately ended up in Barrington. We were here for about, I would say, about three or 4 years before I opened Shirley's Piano Bar here, which was really a love project. I wanted to. My grandfather was a really incredible artistic human, force of nature, a musician. Uh, he never made any money being a musician, but he always had some new albums, some new music that he would write or compose. And ultimately, my grandma Shirley was really the wind on his sails. And, she would support him on any of his creative ideas or endeavors. And my grandma was also a social butterfly, an incredible woman. So ultimately, there was a bar that was abandoned, and I had built out a recording studio in Barrington in 2015. And about 2 years later, someone approached me about this abandoned bar, place called Tip Top Tap before, and they said, "Hey, there's this really cool bar, and it's been abandoned, but it has this really neat grand piano in the window, and just thought maybe you're interested." And I said, "Yeah, you know what? I'm interested. Let's talk about it." Ultimately, went in there, bought the bar, named it Shirley's, and never really knew what it was going to become or if it was going to be successful or not, but it ended up being wildly successful and a really neat spot that people could come and sing and let off steam, and couples could go on dates and singles could meet each other. It was a really it's turned into a pretty neat spot. And so this magazine you're referring to, Country Magazine, they heard I was opening it. They reached out, and my wife and I were on the cover of this magazine, which turned into, I've had different publications do things on me, but this magazine is pretty phenomenal because it, goes to 52,000 of your neighbors, right? So when you go to Jewel or you go to Heinen's or you go to go get your car oil changed, there's always someone who's seen you on this. And especially when it first came out, it was a neat experience. But that I think it's really cool that I didn't even realize that that's where you first saw us or heard of us, and ultimately we met then, and it's been a wonderful friendship ever since.
Yeah. No, I mean, the small worlds continue to collide, because as Chris knows, and some folks I think I've mentioned on the show before, I grew up in Glenview as well. I'm quite a bit older than Chris, but I was involved in the music stuff there. So that's kind of where he started in Glenview. And if you want to share the band, you can. But got involved in a semi-famous band, I would say. I just was looking up last night in preparation for our show, and one of their songs has over 1 billion downloads on Spotify. So I'm sure most of you've heard the song, if I'm remembering the band correctly. So maybe just touch on your how you started a music career, and then I'll fast forward to when you and I actually met in person.
Sounds good. So, being around my grandfather growing up, I had been around music my whole life. My grandfather had a little recording studio in the basement of Skokie, which is a Chicago suburb. And again, he just was incredible. He would make music all the time. He would build carousels out of wood. I mean, he was just an amazing artist. But growing up around music, my mother was also very musical and would write plays, and I would always be in her plays. And I was in a boys' choir growing up. I mean, you name it, I did it. Uh, and when high school came around, though, it was really focused on sports and different things like that. But a lot of my friends in high school were extremely musical, much more musically talented than I was, and started off actually just helping them promote their shows, right? Hoping them have local gigs and would do things that promoters would do, flyer for their shows, tell my friends about their shows, etc. And ultimately came up with a software back in the day. I don't know if you remember flip phones, right? Which, depending on the audience here, a flip phone was a magical thing called Razor was the cool one to have. You would flip it open, and it was the start of text messaging, messaging. And back then, you would have to, in order to send one message, you'd have to click on the number multiple times to get the letter you wanted. A lot of times, you skip over it if you're trying to type things quickly, and then you'd have to wait a few seconds for the to go to the next letter. And it was an extremely actually frustrating process back in the day. And what would happen is, as bands were utilizing cell phone technology to promote their shows, what would happen was, they'd be sending. You can only max out at 20 or 25 messages a pop. That you could send one message, and so they would have to do it over and over and over again. And so sending out SMS messages to a list of hundreds, if not thousands, of fans would take hours, sometimes an entire day, to send out to the entire list. And so I came up with an idea. I said, uh, SMS messages are nothing more than just emails going to a cell phone, is what it was. And I believe it still is. I think iMessage has changed that technology. But um, what if we created a software where on the back end you could upload all these telephone numbers, and then on the front end, uh, a thousand, ten, no, unlimited amount of people by just hitting send could get that message, right? Because it was just an email sent to a phone number. And so we developed this out, and bands started using it to upload their databases, and instantly, they would start working with us because we could help them promote more effectively. And then they would let us, the way a promoter business works is you work with the band, you work with the venue, you buy the talent, and then you sell tickets to the show. And if everything goes right, the you make money if everything goes right. More ticket sales, then the band needs to be paid and the venue needs to be paid, and you walk away with a couple dollars. And so that's really how it got started. And to date now, I've worked with some of the biggest talent in the world. I've been on my stages, or I've toured them, or what have you. So it's been a neat journey, I guess, from that time.
Yeah, yeah. That I think you mentioned the technology component of it, but yeah, that's an amazing thing. So because you had this resolution or problem solving software, they kind of organically found you because, like, holy crap, this kid can get the message out like that, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, so that kind of led you. We jump forward a little bit from. I'm reading this magazine article. I'm talking to my girls about we got to go to the bar, and I end up meeting a buddy at Shaku, which, by the way, both of these are Barrington, just great spots to hang out. So if you're in Barrington or going through Barrington, definitely patronize both of these places. But I'm sitting in Shaku, and I'm sitting next to you, but I don't know it's you at the time, and we're talking to a bunch of people. It was kind of a busy night, and all of a sudden we start talking about faith and family and church, and then I look at and I'm like, wait a minute, do you own Shirley? And you're like, yeah. So we were there another couple hours, and then I don't know if you remember this. You're like, let's go down to the bar. So like 11 or 12, like we rolled down,
I
and,
actually do.
and I walked. You drove because you were going to park there. So I walk in there like, sorry, sir, we're closed. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're going to want to stay open for a minute. And then you walked in, and we ended up closing the place down, which was just a blast to catch up. So just I mean, talk about a small world and connecting just randomly after no. And
Yeah,
then we
and
had
I love you brought up Shaku too, real quick, just because one of the inspirations for Shirley's was I was spending so much money at Shaku, doing meetings and just entertaining people who would come out to Barrington, which is a Chicago suburb. But a lot of times I would try to inspire people to come out and buy dinner and drinks, and I was literally spending so much money at Shaku that Shirley's seemed like a very good idea, where at least I'd have a place to bring people and not have to spend money, instead hopefully make money. So I think that's a fun little fact,
yeah.
correlating with our meeting at Shaku.
Well, and just back to Shirley's. This is not a Shirley's commercial by any stretch of the imagination, but it is right on the railroad track. So if you guys take the train out, so this is a great place to not have to drive anywhere and drink, but you take the train out to Barrington, and it's like 200-yard walk, and you're in your place, and you're literally walking onto the stage kind of because the piano is right there. It's just a great, fun experience. So highly recommend.
Thank you for the plug. It's a really neat, special place. I always say, my goal with it's actually amazing. Because I opened it not to necessarily make money, I opened it to save money that I was spending at Shaku, or around Barrington places or other establishments. I really went into it with a thought process of I just wanted it to be very authentic, and I didn't really cut any corners. I just wanted it to feel like a very homey, a unique, authentic place, almost like replicating what it was like when I was growing up. My grandfather would be on the piano. Their neighbors would be over, their friends would be over. Everyone would be singing and drinking and having such a great time. And I just remember being a little kid sneaking out of, the bedroom and coming and watching all these adults have a great time, and my grandfather on the piano. And I really wanted to somehow capture that and share that feeling. And I think the way you just described it is good, because it's appear to have accomplished that, where people do feel like they're at home. You come there, it's a great time, it's very intimate. There's pictures of my family all over the walls. There's pictures of me when I was two in my grandfather's studio on the walls, my grandfather on the piano. It's a really awesome place, which I haven't franchised yet, but I've had a lot of offers to franchise that I never felt right yet, of kind of having it turn into maybe a Fridays or a Howl at the Moon or one of these chains. But I think from a business opportunity, it's a good case study of showing that people are hungry for authenticity. And when you can give people that, and there's so many, you can walk into piano bars and there's the standard, there's a picture of Marilyn Monroe, and there's a picture of Elvis, and there's a picture of these people who are obviously iconic and amazing. But I mean, how many, there's just really nothing, there's nothing there, right? There's no personality to it.
Yeah.
And that is something I really wanted to avoid, not only at Shirley's, but in my music venues and everything else that I built. Just an air of authenticity and connection.
Yeah, and it's real. I mean, I took some friends in there. I've taken some Nashville musicians in there. I don't know if I've shared that with you, some up and comers, and they were like, "This is such a neat spot. I can't believe it's out here." But I brought a friend who's a big music connoisseur, Ken, who I want you to meet at some point. Just he lives in Southern California and very music encyclopedia brain. But I brought him, and it was a slower night, weeknight, and the gal who was playing the piano, anyone requests, right? So I went down and threw $20 in. She learned a song, uh, Chris, like she's like, give me a minute. She took her iPad, da 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 da, and was playing Elton John in 5 minutes, and the whole place. I mean, it was just a riot, just a riot. And the fact that you could approach her, have her be flexible enough to take requests and learn it. I mean, just there's talented people. So
Oh, it's amazing. I'm so happy you had that experience and your friend did because that's the other thing I think I've prided the brand in is, no matter when you go there, you might not know who's going to be on the piano that night, but their quality. They're some of the most talented musicians, and they can do hip hop on the piano, they can do rock, they can do classical music, they can do anything you could possibly dream of. It really is incredible to watch. Them just be able to play any song, give it their touch, and then for people to sing along with that. There's really nothing like Bohemian Rhapsody being played on a Saturday night at Shirley's, and everyone singing "Mama" at the top of their
yeah,
lungs. It's a neat experience, and they can really do anything. It's incredible.
yeah, good job on that. This particular song was Philadelphia Freedom from Elton John, so it was a good sing along song as well. But yeah, great night. Um, so fast forwarding a little bit now, you've diversified a little bit into some other different things. What are you doing? Like, what's your 9 to 5 day look like? I know you're busy with kids and sports and all that other stuff. So that aside, and he's a great dad, by the way, coach, supporter of all that. But so what are you hanging your hat on as far as business things these days?
Yeah, great question. I think so. My trajectory, my pedigree is as a legacy promoter. I'm a concert promoter at heart. That's how I got started, working with bands and DJs and hip hop and rock and you name it from a young college age. And over time, discovered over time after about 10 years being a promoter and doing tours all over the country in Canada and working with you name it artists, um, over time realized that in order to be competitive long term, I needed to start buying my own music venues. A lot of times when you're a promoter, you have to go in and rent essentially someone else's music venue in order to then bring your show to that particular city. And so, about I guess like 7, 8 years ago, I started buying music venues, the actual real estate, taking over the operations of the music venue, and then ultimately buying the real estate as a really a competitive edge to keep others out and to retain our control of that particular, whether it's a genre or the relationships that we have with various musicians. When they come to Chicago, they call us up and they know that they're able to come, quote unquote, home to a place that they're familiar with and working with our team, which is the best in the industry when it comes to music and hospitality and really giving fans and the performing talent the best experience. There's nothing really like, Patio Theater, which I own on the northwest side of Chicago, is a 1,500 capacity venue built in 1920, and brought it from being closed down from decades to now, again, the biggest artists in the world have performed on a stage. And there's really nothing like attending a show there. The energy is crazy. A lot of 20 somethings and teenagers now can probably credit Patio Theater with being their first concert ever, which is, not saying that we're Walt Disney here, but, kind of giving someone that first experience with a musician that they truly love at that moment in time at a venue that I've created, kind of like very similar to Shirley's. You walk into Patio Theater and I've got stars up on the walls of all the musicians that have been on stage, anyone from, Smashing Pumpkins to Bone Thugs and Harmony to, you name it, artist has been on that stage. And it's really neat. You walk in and you see all these stars and you're immediately you see Juice World star Juice World, which is an iconic hip hop artist. It was his first show ever in Chicago, from Chicago. His first show ever was Patio Theater, and he went on to, now I think I forgot what number he is total in terms of total streams or popularity, but he's way, way, way up there with some of the greatest, you know, Tupac and Biggie Smalls and some of the biggest artists that ever lived. It's pretty amazing. And the interesting part about that is that, you know, a lot of corporations like Live Nation would have never given him the shot that he got to play on patio theater stage, as an example. I guess that was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And uh, it's a really neat spot. So, you know, buying the music venues has been a, you know, challenge through COVID. We got them going. COVID then really changed the entire dynamic of our industry. Co-founded an organization called NEVA, which is the National Independent Venue Association. Myself and then 12 other music venues from around the country created a essentially a trade lobbying organization because we needed to over COVID. We were shut down due to government mandate. We were first to be closed down, and we were going to be last to open back up. And unfortunately, the government did not call us and just say, "Hey, can we pay your mortgage and your taxes and your insurances?" And oh, can we refund all the tickets that from the canceled shows that you have to refund? Unfortunately, no one did that. So we saw very clearly that we were going to be extinct after this. There was no way that we were going to be able to survive 2 years of closure, and having to pay our banks and having to pay the taxes and things. And so ultimately, we formed NEVA and got 3,500 independent music venues across the country together. Lobbied Congress with the Save Our Stages Act, and ended up getting $16.5 billion, which was the biggest arts grant ever in the United States history, given to the venues so that we could essentially just get back to zero after COVID and reopen our doors, which has still been a challenge. Things have changed post COVID. Insurance rates have skyrocketed. You know, taxes have skyrocketed. I mean, it's a very different landscape than it was pre-COVID, but uh, we're open, we're alive, and a lot of my colleagues across the country are also alive due to the efforts of NEVA and being able to get that grant through Congress, which was a whole nother experience in itself. Becoming, you know, it used to be talking to agents and managers, and then it became talking to congressmen and senators. And it's, you know, music is an all-American thing that we all share, whether you're red or blue or purple or whatever you affiliate with. We all share music and we all share a love for music, and so that helped us really accomplish that.
Yeah, that I remember trying to meet with you. We did speak during that time, but you were so busy trying to raise that money, and having had a business that has struggled and closed, the pressures on that as a father, as a business owner, as an employer, as a, I mean, we're just crazy, and the fact that that came through is just, I mean, you guys, you 12 of you are going to go down in history for, getting that money and getting it to people, and how they use it is beyond your control, but the fact that a lot of you are still out there and alive and kicking and entertaining and bringing joy to people is just a huge huge accomplishment. So good on you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's you know, I always tell people during that time from exactly what you said, you know, a lot of us have personal guarantees on all of our venues, mom and pop businesses. A lot of venue owners across the country I've gotten to know through NEBA and just this whole experience. They inherited their venue from their father and their father, you know, and it uh, being able to retain that and really it's American music is it starts at our independent venues. It starts we're the ones who put the Juice Worlds on our stages, and then their music ends up, you know, you can go to Tokyo and walk down the street and someone's playing Juice World as an example. You can go to Sweden and people are singing country music, and it really is the number one export of the United States. And really, that was truly at risk. You know, people think that record labels obviously play a major role in the development of music, but I would say the majority of all great music starts in some basement. It starts in a self-made studio in someone's uncle's basement, and they're able to develop some of the best albums or the first albums that musicians release, and it's at that time period that they're trying to get in front of fans, and really that was all at risk over COVID. And props to the our governing officials in Congress and Senate who really supported it and made it happen. I mean, it really was impossible. Everyone said it was going to be impossible, and everyone said that there's no way this is going to happen. There's no way you guys are going to get it done. And it was really just tenacity, and then 2.7 million emails from our fans and our databases harassing congressmen to say, "Hey, we don't want to lose this piece of American culture, these independent venues." And here we are today. I probably would be in a very different situation for that being accomplished. And to answer your question today, it's like the venues are great, they're functioning. I'm in the process right now. Uh, as you mentioned, I'm really enjoying being a father to my young children. I'm really enjoying working from home most days. And then when I go to the city to my shows or have to get on an airplane, I'll do that. And it's been a nice COVID offered a very nice pause, which allowed me to restructure my businesses where I don't necessarily need to be at the venues till 3 a.m. all the time anymore or do different things, which has been really amazing actually. And so, looking to the future, it's really just about continuing that. I think work-life balance, and I tell that to college kids, and I tell that to everyone. And like, one thing that I think people don't fully think about when they go for a job or try to start their own business. It's very hard to start your own business, but I think when you can picture the life you want and the work-life balance you want, you're able to accomplish that and make the money you need to provide and do whatever you need to do. But that's really been the focus, and it took me some time to really learn that. It's just here's the work-life balance that I want, and really arranging my business to facilitate that is what it is.
Yeah, and that what is in full transparency, we're I've shared this on a couple of the other shows. We're working on a documentary. Chris knows about it. My foster brothers, basketball documentary, Leon Smith, and our plan and goal is to premiere it at one of his establishments because they were both or all of them were former movie theaters, so it's a perfect thing in the city. Matter of fact, another crossing of the uh, timelines here. The patio theater is literally right down the street from where these boys grew up in a children's home, right on Irving Park Road. So it just is almost in their old neighborhood. Matter of fact, that Portage Park right there at the corner of Central, that's where they played all their sports growing up. And then fast forward to the NBA, first round draft pick. So just a perfect fit. If hopefully timing wise it'll work where you don't have something else in there. But
Oh, no, I'll make sure the schedule is clear for that. The premiere, it's neat. Patio being built in the 1920s, it's amazing. All the different memories that people did have there, grandparents had there, and now they want their grandchildren to be able to experience the venue, which again is just amazingly beautiful. And I restored the majority of it. There's a couple things that need to still be worked on, but it's you guys are gonna have a wonderful premiere, and I'm really excited for the final product. You've been working on that for years, and I'm really
yeah,
excited to see it.
it's like anything in these like your Shirley's. It's a labor of love, right? We're not trying to make money. We're just trying to share their story, talk about mental health, the child care system and orphanage system and all that is just it's a cool story. But I do owe you a thank you. And this will get a little close to home. So Chris talked about the venues and the Neva and Shirley's, but he does do some really amazing uh, big events. So last summer, you were kind enough to get my daughter and her friends some tickets to Summer Smash, I think is called.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they went. First of all, they didn't believe I could get these tickets, which I was willing to pay for, by the way. So thank
You
you.
had a guy.
But
Yes.
I go, they didn't believe it. They got there, they got tickets. Unfortunately, it was that day that was like hurricane weather type of deal. So they like left halfway through because I guess it ended up getting shut down that day. I don't even know. but yeah, they just had a blast. And again, just that connection of, you just never know who you're going to bump into, who you're going to sit next to, who you're going to see in your mailbox on a magazine cover. And just to watch, see a kid from Glenview like me kind of go through, end up being one of the biggest, not trying to blow smoke up your hinder, but biggest hip hop, promoters in America, maybe still for sure for a while, and just, have you living in our neighborhood is pretty amazing.
I appreciate that, and I think Summer Smash is an incredible festival. It is produced by a company I'm a partner in called Speakerbox, which we partner with a company called Lyrical Lemonade, which is one of the biggest hip hop brands in the world, also based in Chicago. And Summer Smash is going on its seventh year right now, which is really neat. We started it scraping our bank accounts, just saying, all right, we're going to give this a try, and it's been incredibly successful. It is still the biggest independently owned hip hop festival in the world that we know of, which is pretty incredible. And again, just growing it from an idea and ambition, and uh, a lot of credit to my partner Berto Solorio, who had that vision, and then obviously reached out to Cole uh, to create it. I mean, it really truly has become it's become a an amazing thing that again, competing against Lollapaloozas, who are funded by Live Nation, which is the biggest it is the only biggest corporation in the world that does live music. And to go against a an entity like that and compete against an entity that can lose $240 million a year on their concerts is crazy. I mean, I can't lose a dollar. So I think that goes to show the power of relationship and the power of quality and kind of loyalty, and really just that's why I love the business I'm in, is creating these once in a lifetime experiences, and kind of taking on big challenges like this. It's a very David and Goliath um, scenario.
Well, you always seem calm and confident, and there's a sense, if anyone who's hung out with Chris, now, first of all, he's kind and generous, but there's this calmness. I don't know if that comes from your faith or just like it's going to happen, no matter what I do. But there's a calmness that comes along with, these ups and downs in business and in life, and it just it shows, my friend. So again, good job for making people feel comfortable and at home and calm, peaceful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I think that is also developed over time. Once you've seen it all, and you do again, I think faith is also a big part of that. Coming out of COVID, especially when the world was falling apart, and seeing God really show up during that time period, and really just having faith that it does say in the Bible that all things are meant for good for those who trust Him, and it's true. And I've seen that over and over again. And I think that might be the calmness that you feel. It's really just it is a storm, but I think there's a good way to navigate it. And so far, so good. So
Yeah.
far, so good.
No, I can't wait to see. I mean, got a lot of time in front of you and kids growing up and stuff, but I still think there's a lot of fun adventures and innovation and things that you're going to share with the world. Um, and so I'm excited to see. I've got, and just so everyone's aware, if you haven't watched our program before, thank you, one, for joining, because without you viewers and sharers, we got nothing. So um, appreciate you joining us. But what we try and do on this show or this channel is educate, encourage, or entertain. Hopefully, this is an encouragement episode where you see, like, man, you can be, there's big highs and big lows, and you can come from Glenview, Illinois, which is really only known for craft foods back in the day, and be a top music promoter by really just shaking hands, kissing babies, and being tenacious. Right, hard work is really what it comes down to. But well, when we started out as an automotive channel, and then we kind of just pivoted to this: what drives you, Chris Bauman, to get up in the morning? So, but before I ask that final question, which is what drives you, and then some words of wisdom to young Chris, we will still keep a little car info in this. So, what is your favorite car that you've ever owned?
Oh, that's a great question. I owned a Volkswagen Phaeton at one point, which is a discontinued model. It essentially was Volkswagen's attempt to compete with the Audi A8. Only that it was so much cooler than an Audi A8. I mean, it had they designed this car where the entire dashboard was like a pilot's cockpit, right? So the entire dashboard just illuminated, almost like an airplane, like a small jet, and the thing had everything. I mean, this is I don't even know what year this was. This must have been 2008, maybe. And it had massaging seats. It had windshield curtains. It had everything. It was just and it was fast. It was so fast, and it could just wail on the highway. And I'm going to admit I did get into one or two street races on the highway with other guys who would pull up next to me and kind
Yeah,
of rev their engines. But uh, it was an awesome car. I really did like that car a lot. It was a neat vehicle to have. Unfortunately, ended up hitting a deer with it on the highway, and that was the end of it. But I do credit that car to saving probably my life because it was not a pretty thing going, I guess 75 miles an hour and a deer running into the middle of the highway. So that's what
that's
mating season will do, and I think sometimes humans do the same thing during mating
yeah,
season. So
yeah.
some
True,
also insight.
true, true. Okay, what is your? That's the first Volkswagen Phaeton we've had on the channel, by the way, as
Mhm.
far as favorite. But
Okay.
it's a good one. I'm a Volkswagen Audi guy,
Okay.
through and through. What is your current car?
I drive a an Escalade. So I have an Escalade, Cadillac Escalade, and then we have a Mercedes for our two cars. And then we also then have a Tahoe, which is my baby because it has 252,000 miles on it. It is the car that we bought when I had my son and brought him home from the hospital in it. And funny enough, he's turning 15 in about a month. And ever since he was a little boy, I said, "Hey, Landon, you take the car, it could be yours someday." And sure enough, this is a great trick for anyone who has kids, young kids in this. It's amazing. He really, truly has taken care of this Tahoe now for about 3 years. Him and a buddy paint the rust. They change the oil on it. He keeps it clean. It's amazing. And so, very, very soon, he's going to be able to drive it. And I really pride myself with that. And honestly, if I could say that my favorite car right now, that is my favorite car. I love taking it out. I love keeping it alive. I love putting the windows down because the air conditioning doesn't work, but it's wonderful. It's just a great vehicle. It's tough. And the fact that it survived
Yeah,
three babies and 250,000 miles. Probably the best investment I ever made in my entire life was this vehicle. So that is my favorite by far. Chevy Tahoe. I don't know if they make them the same anymore, but man,
yeah.
what a great vehicle.
They've been around for a long time. Yeah, I'm a GM guy. I've had a bunch of Escalades and Suburbans, more Suburbans than Escalades. But and then last car question: what is your dream car?
You know, we've been taking a trip down to Motorworks lately, my son and I. We've been kind of for fun wailing on different types of cars. We took a Porsche out the other day. I think I'm going to get an AMG, like another Mercedes, but a really cool, like AMG. I don't even know what number, but just something that has uh, a really neat kind of race car feel to it, and but still a nice like kind of a nice luxury thing where I take a lot of musicians around. We'll pick them up from the airport sometimes. We're rolling around wherever, and I think it fits that checks that box. So that's what we're
Yeah,
looking at next.
Good. Yeah. Let me know because matter of fact, I was supposed to go um, to, which was kind of why I was glad you moved the time. I was supposed to go meet a friend at Motorworks today who's just inherited some money. He was going to buy a Porsche, like order it, do the whole
Cool.
experience. And then he got sick. And so we had to change that to next week. But
Okay.
yeah, so I've got a bunch of contacts there if you need help with that. So
I will definitely be calling you.
keep me in mind. All right. So words of wisdom, we call this the wow factor here, which is, and you can kind of spin it either way, if it's to young Chris Bauman or to your 15-year-old son. But I'll give you, it doesn't need to be profound, just so you're not under pressure. Really, it's some of the guests have said, just be nice, be nice. That's one of the words of wisdom. The other one was get started, just do something, get off your butt and do something. The one the other day, which was a good one, was work hard, right? So some of these are commonsensical. Some have been a little bit more profound, but what would you tell young Chris Bauman if you're going to tell him after now all these years of
Uh,
folks?
Great question. One thing I've learned over time is to just say yes. And I think younger Chris Bauman was, uh, I would say no, or I wouldn't take certain meetings, or I wouldn't do certain things. And, some of those meetings that I didn't take when I was younger turned out to be huge, companies and people who were able to create some amazing things that I'm sure I could have partnered with in so many ways. So I think the advice would be to just say yes. And it doesn't mean recklessly saying yes, but it means uh, it's okay to stick your toe in. And I think there's, different circumstances. And I think the universe, God brings certain things to you throughout your day. If your compass is correct and you're magnetizing the right things to you, um, the things that are coming to you a lot of times are things you might not think could be something, but I think by saying yes and just sticking your foot in a little bit, it usually turns out to be a benefit. And I'll say that the Jim Carrey movie, which I saw in college, called Yes Man, if you've seen that,
Yep.
it really truly, and I'll tell the story real quick, the plot, but essentially, Jim Carrey is a pessimist, and he, is kind of living a life that he's not very happy with. He's depressed. He doesn't feel like he has much purpose and any purpose, and he gets hypnotized, that he has to say yes to everyone, right? Girls, ask him out, he has to say yes. Business opportunities, he has to say yes, and people are coming up to him, asking for $100,000. He has to say yes. And uh, the magnificent thing that this movie reveals is that Jim Carrey turns into I think a billionaire by just saying yes. He starts dating supermodels. He creates this life that he'd always dreamed of by just saying yes. And I think I included, and a lot of people I'm sure out there, a lot of times it seems hard, it seems risky, it seems like something we're all a little bit closed off. But I think having conversations with people at a bar like Shaku, I think having when people approach you, try to talk to you, ask you to do things, go on YouTube. Which is this is kind of rare for me, but I'm really happy to be here, Carl. It's it turns into some really great things. And I guess that would be my advice, is just to say yes. And that could mean, someone asks you for a meeting, try to get 15 minutes in, try to get a coffee, try to do things. If you're single, and you think you have a type, you don't really know your type, right? You gotta say yes to things and just kind of go on dates and really explore people and get to know people. And I really would say that opening your mind to that and being willing to open yourself is truly is the best advice I could give my younger self.
Yeah. That's a great one. That's a great one. I mean, just circling back a little bit, like when COVID hit, and I've shared this to a few folks, is I was so probably like the rest of us. I'm sitting in this same office looking out the window like I can't go outside. The world's shutting down. What are we doing? So part of my creative outlet and just kind of venting was YouTube. So I started the channel. I did like 10, 15 episodes, and I showed them to no one, right? Because I was afraid. I thought they had to be edited and polished and had graphics and intro and an outroll and all the Hollywood stuff. And the fact is, you can just have this conversation like we are here, and upload it and publish it, and people may or may not get something out of it. But the fact that we're doing something and we're having a conversation, if all the only people that benefit from this are me and you, great. We got to catch up, got to have a good conversation, got to encourage each other a little bit and know each other a little bit better. But yeah, that saying yes and then executing it, I kind of did a little um picked like how some people have a Latin, you know, phrase that, means something to them and motivates them. So I went on Google and did the Google Translate. And so my new one, which is my only one I've ever had, is acta non verba, which means action, not words. And so that ties a little bit into your saying, like, you could say yes, but then you still got to execute. When you say yes to something, you still got to go do it. You got to pick up the phone. You got to get on a Zoom call. So yeah, yes with action is brilliant, brilliant advice. So thank you for that, and thanks for joining. And
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I really appreciate you asking me to join, and it is really nice. A lot of times I think when you're going, you're living life, I think it really is a great opportunity. And I appreciate you asking the questions that make you really look back and think about, okay, this is what has been accomplished. I think the thing with most entrepreneurs is you're never really done. I've got a very long to-do list of things I need to do today and projects and new festivals and new you name it that we want to accomplish. And it's really nice to pause, and I think this is a really good opportunity with your YouTube channel to do that, where it's like, okay, we're pausing, you reflect, and then when we're done after this time period, we're back into the world. I always tell my kids when I'm going to the city, I'm going back into the jungle, because sometimes it feels like that. And I love Chicago, and give or take, good things, bad things that are going on in the city right now. But it's an amazing city. It's beautiful. But yeah, they know, they're like, okay, Dad is leaving home, and it's time to go into the jungle and come home, right, safely. So this has been a very nice pause. So I really appreciate you and the inspiration to get on this and talk. And it's really neat, and I really appreciate it.
cool, man. Well, we will see you either at Shirley's or at
Yes,
Chaku or somewhere
yes.
in town. I'm challenging myself to say yes to Summer Smash just to see that
You'll have to come
giant.
stop by.
But yeah,
It's something you will never forget. It'll be implanted in your mind forever. It is pretty incredible to see. It's a 120,000 over 3 days, you name it, from all sorts of different ages and places around the country. I think we 50 states or something come from over 50 states. So it's a really neat thing. I hope you can make it this year. And again, I really appreciate you asking me to be on this. I think it's amazing. And I love what you're doing, and you're very brave. And I will say that I really respect that about you, Carl. Is just you are always putting yourself out there, and you're always really letting the world see who you are. And I think that that is something you should be very proud of and very brave of you. And I'm sure
thank you.
it's reaping positive moments in your day to day.
It's definitely a creative outlet, and that's what I appreciate. But I think, Chris, we all need those little words of encouragement and attaboys and good job. Even though as entrepreneurs and dads, sometimes we're just like, I don't need it, I just can motor. But you still need to hear it. It's good to hear. So thank you for sharing, and that's why I want to encourage you too. So
Amen.
see you,
Thank you,
brother.
brother. Thanks, man. Thank you for
Have time
having
with the
me.
family. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Have a
Bye.
great day. Bye bye.